Bichara Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bichara Supply Chain. This is Nur Hadi host, and I have a very special guest today, Farid, CEO, Chief Executive Officer at Meratus Group. Okay, so thank you for being here, Farid. I'm really so excited to have you on the show.
Yes, good afternoon, Nur Hadi, and I'm excited as well to join this Bichara podcast and to share with you a bit of the industry challenges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about key trends and challenges for the future of the shipping industry. But before we get started, can you please brief a little bit about yourself and your professional background?
Okay. Well, so my name is Faried Belbouab. I'm a French national from Paris. So I'm 39 years old. Married with 3 kids. I'm presently holding the position of CEO in the Meratus Group, being in charge of the liner, the logistic, and the terminal divisions. I've been in the Meratus Group for almost a year. So by this September, I will celebrate Satu Tahun, 1 year.
Wow.
And before joining the Meratus Group, so I spent actually the last 15 years working for the CMA CGM Group, a French worldwide leading group where I have been holding various positions in the commercial, the general management, in terminals, agency, line management divisions, and across different continents. So in the Asia region, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Indonesia, but as well in the Middle East, in Africa, and in Europe. So Indonesia is not necessarily new to me today in the Meratus Group. I used to work here, and I'm very, very happy actually to be back to Indonesia and to contribute to make, let's say, of Indonesia, let's say, a greater nation.
How do you see the current trends of shipping in 2020 and next 5 to 10 years from now? Have you seen a major change that will be changing the landscape of the shipping industry itself?
Very good question, Muradi. I think what we have seen in 2021 is a lifetime experience. With the COVID and the pandemic, to be honest, no one actually would have expected such disruption back actually at the beginning of the pandemic. And maybe I'd like actually to go back a little bit to 2020, to what has built the fundamental of, I would say, a shipping crisis, or let's say a lifetime opportunity. Depends on, let's say, from whom you talk, whether it's from a customer end or from a ship owner, ship operator. So at the beginning of the year, so when the COVID crisis has started to plump, I will say in the world, and starting from China, so we have been experimenting, I would say, a major supply chain management disruption, where, for instance, the Chinese factories were closed back in the days from the last quarter of 2019 up to the beginning of the year 2020, and at that time, so everyone was expecting, let's say, life to go back to normal, but suddenly, obviously, the pandemic has started, obviously, to spread all over the world, and when China started to reopen and to control the COVID outbreak in their territory, then obviously the COVID started to impact and influence the let's say all over the world, the region of Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, but as well Europe, Middle East, Africa, and at that time, obviously, the the whole, let's say, supply chain ecosystem and landscape started as well to be severely impacted. So we had this disconnection between, let's say, I would say, let's say, economies lockdown and let's say, and openings between the, let's say, the Far East and Europe and USA. And in parallel, obviously, the shipping operators that in anticipation of, let's say, of the impact of, let's say, this crisis started to take drastic measures by limiting the capacity. So a lot of blank sailing programs, blank sailing in the sense where reducing the capacity, taking out ships, scrapping vessels, canceling actually voyages, services from Asia to Europe, Asia to US. Just to give a number, approximately 285 blank sailings were introduced at that time to limit, I would say, the severe impact of the lockdown from China, because there was no cargo moving. Yeah. And beside that, we had as well, let's say, container, let's say, manufacturers that have also drastically slowing down the production. When in a year, let's say in 1 year, you have approximately 2.5 million boxes that are produced. In 2020, only 500,000 were produced and were ordered by the shipping community. So this has created some sort of, let's say, of aggregation of factors that had a major impact on the supply and demand. And when, let's say, and all of this obviously were, let's say, running while in parallel, the governments have taken also, I will say, a strong initiative to sustain their economy with incentive economic packages to ensure that, you know, those small factories and people which are jobless, let's say, can keep consuming goods, and people also, I would say, habits started to change with ordering more online, consuming more while actually they are at home, changing their equipment, let's say their home appliances, and this has created, I would say, a major disruption where we have been noticing a shortage of capacity, shortage of space, shortage of equipments, leading consequently to as well congestion in the ports. And when a container, let's say, used to trade last year in the beginning of the trade from Asia to Europe at a level of $1,400, $1,500, is being today loaded at a level of $15,000 to $20,000 per 40 foot from Asia to Europe. So this is absolutely amazing, because I think we have never seen this. Even if I recall well, the 2008 crisis, when let's say before, let's say we had the subprime crisis and the economic and financial crisis, there have been as well a surge in the shipping trends, and the rates actually were, let's say, of course also increasing, but we have never seen this. And this is obviously, this has been creating a lot of opportunities for the shipping carriers, a lot of pressure as well to take, but also a lot of challenges for, let's say, the I would say various industries across the world, because obviously moving now a container for some, let's say, for some customers, for some consignees or some shippers, exporters, is extremely challenging and complicated, considering the surge of costs. So this year of, let's say, of 2020, 2021 is unique in terms of experience.
Okay, so particularly in Indonesia and Southeast Asia's context, so what is your view on this in terms of trends and challenges in the shipping industry?
So, what is happening currently at, let's say at the global level and regional level with those, let's say, with this shipping crisis or opportunity, and when I say it's a crisis and an opportunity, because it's really an outbreak, and the Suez Canal and the Yantian congestion, of course, are let's say also triggering more and more challenges like now, for instance, the closing of the Zushan, of the Ningbo terminal, and the carriers, the international mainline operators are going to generate about $100 billion of profit. This is 40 years losses, let's say, for the industry, Nur Hadi. So does it have an impact, let's say, on the Indonesian landscape environment? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense where obviously every industries are struggling. Every port operator as well is seeing a surge of volumes, and we have to cope with that. But everyone actually has to deal with that. So the exporters who is based in Java and has to ship cargo from Indonesia to US is struggling as much as, let's say, others from other regions, from Vietnam, from Malaysia, or probably a little bit less than China, because China has the network, they have the ecosystem, and they have obviously the let's say a strong carrier network and setup to accommodate those volumes. But overall, everyone is struggling. Of course, other ports are struggling more. Let's say remote locations in the Sulawesi, in the Kalimantan, or let's say or the Sumatra area, are obviously struggling more because the carriers are giving more priority to those customers, and I will say, as a national Indonesian operator, we have not experienced this surge of this disruption of business. Our business has been more stable towards the market, I think, because we have different factor. Number one, there's a consistent overcapacity in the market, oversupply. Even though we have been addressing these by, reallocating ships to other trades or outside of Indonesia. But as well, beyond that, we have, I think, some sort of moral obligation. So towards, the Indonesian Pulau, ecosystem. So 17,000 islands to serve, to connect, and Meratus being, an operator with 64 years history and experience here. So we've been, really willing to, to continue to serve the islands by, with reasonable cost and, setup. So in terms of infrastructure, so how do I see actually Indonesia in the, and the Southeast Asia context? Huh? So Indonesia obviously has still a major role to play in the region of Southeast Asia, but as well, I think in the Asia Pacific region. It's extremely well geolocated in the sense where you have, the Malacca Strait and the largest traffic, world containerized and shipping traffic moves through the Malacca Strait. So there's actually still a major opportunity for the Indonesian operators to grab. If I talk as well about, positioning, yes, geographically, very good positioning, but as well, major positioning in terms of, I would say, of a contributor. Indonesia is the fourth largest population in the world. More than 60%, of the population is below 30 years, and the economy is booming. So if you take out the context of the pandemic, the domestic growth has been contributing actually majorly in sustaining the economy despite the pandemic, and a lot of opportunities lies, I will say, on the fact that we have really a wide territory with cultural diversity, which could really play a major role, in the Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific region. It has as well, of course, a lot of challenges because Indonesia is somewhat, I would say, a big elephant with so many infrastructure, I would say, barriers to overcome, in the sense where there's, let's say, it has to be sustained by a strong investment in the, let's say, in terms of infrastructure development in Java, but as well in the other islands. We have still to, let's say, to continue to develop our port, let's say, infrastructure everywhere to reinforce them, because even though actually 50 to 60% of the population is concentrated in Java, but we still have 40% across Sumatra, Sulawesi, the Nusa Tenggara area, and Kalimantan. And the bureaucracy as well, that is really, I will say, redundant, let's say, in daily, let's say, actions and interactions with the government, constitutes somewhat, let's say, a challenge to overcome. But I think we are really making good progress, and the startups and the private sector are playing a major role in shifting the economy to a digital economy with more opportunities, Nurhadi.
Okay, so what advice can you offer to the business leader and also stakeholders to stay on the top of these trends, Farid?
I think, Nurhadi, the first key takeaway that, let's say, I'd like to share, it's really about, being able to accept and to anticipate any sort of disruption. To be very honest with you, even though I have been attending, let's say, some leadership programs in INSEAD, and I have been, let's say, working in different countries, and I had as well to go through different crises in my life. I mean, particularly the one of 2008. I was not expecting the COVID to be so disruptive. So it's today we talk about the new normal, but the new normal is now the old normal, and I think we really need to accept the fact that COVID might not go away for probably the next 2 to 3 years. We have actually to accept the fact that there are, let's say, different variants that are, let's say, are coming, that there are new vaccinations, let's say, new vaccines as well that will need to be developed to let's say, I would say, to cope with those, let's say, new variants, to accept the fact that the COVID is here to stay. I mean, to stay. So at least for the next 2 to 3 years, we need to continue to strive through, let's say, this pandemic, because it's important, I would say, for the success of, let's say, of our companies, of our people, and as well at personal level for, let's say, for our families and the next generation to come. We need, let's say, our leaders. I mean, the leaders must be agile, in the sense where we have, let's say, today, let's say, a new working style environment. I think it's not even only about work from home or work from office, but it's how actually to maintain a certain connection with our people, to ensure that the motivation is there, that they can continue to learn, that they can continue to be groomed online, because people are all today have, let's say, expectations as well from let's say, from the leaders in our companies. Understanding customer behavior is also critical, in the sense where it's not only about transformation or digitalization, but it's really about anticipating their needs, ensuring that the customer experience is seamless, that they can connect to whatever application, system. I see a lot of initiatives in many companies with managerial programs and which is of course critical. But what COVID has taught us is that the soft skills are probably as much as, let's say, as important as, let's say, the technical skills, and probably even, let's say, managing the stress, communicating properly, ensuring that any key message that you want to deliver are, let's say, are effective in this pandemic context, in this, let's say, digital online, let's say, context is really critical. So investing in people is actually, I would say, critical to make sure that you can, let's say, attract best people, but you make sure as well that you can retain them.
Okay, so I actually still have a couple of questions, Farid, but we are running out of time now. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to speaking with you at another time.
At Bichara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Bichara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicharasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.